Welcome to the Old Capital Real Estate Investing Podcast with Michael Becker and Paul Peebles. During this program, you will hear interviews with real-life successful investors who will share their stories and provide useful advice on how to acquire, finance, and operate apartment complexes. Now, here they are, Michael Becker and Paul Peebles.
Welcome to the Old Capital Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Peebles, National Underwriter for Old Capital. Joining me today would typically be the mayor of the great state of real estate in Texas, Mr. Michael Becker, but he's truly on a due diligence assignment today, so we wish Michael and his group over at SPI a lot of luck. They're looking at a nice property in Texas, and he'll be on to talk a little bit about that in the following couple weeks. In the podcast today, we have Ashley Cao with us. Ashley is with Old Capital. Ashley, what is going on in the Old Capital world this week?
Yeah, well, I am packing my bags and my fan and my very light linen clothing for this upcoming Dallas field trip that we're doing on Friday.
Friday, August 22nd, come to Texas. Come see Ashley Cao with Old Capital as we sit down and we talk in classroom style to people that may be new to the multifamily investing business. So think of us as bankers, because we all are bankers. For us, kind of give you behind the scenes of actually how it happens. We have nothing, we have no agenda of why we're doing it. We want to make sure that you're the most knowledgeable when you come to see us to apply for a loan. So we'll tell you a little bit of the history of multifamily investing, what's the good things, the bad things to look for before you put your hard-earned money into a transaction. So come see us on August 22nd, next week. Go to oldcapitalpodcast.com, oldcapitalpodcast.com, and RSVP. We may have one more coming up this year, but come in and see us, spend some time. It's an all-day event. We start off early in the morning, and then we put you on with classroom style, then we put you on a bus trip, and we'll look at properties that we've either financed or properties that are actually on the market to be bought. So oldcapitalpodcast.com. So in the past, commercial real estate was a man's business. Today, we're going to prove them wrong. Today, we're going to prove that it's not a man's business, but it's a woman's business. And not just a woman's business, but it could be an Asian woman's business. Today, we sit down and chat with 4 Asian women that are challenging the past in commercial real estate. They are the future. They are setting the pace. They are buying, financing, syndicating the capital, and then overseeing the managing of apartments. We will start today with Ashley Cao with Old Capital. She's a banker that finances all different types of real estate, from apartments to self-storage, office, just to name a few. Today, she will introduce our guests and ask them the questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley, and please introduce the ladies, Ashley.
Thank you, Paul. So these are ladies that are friends first, I would say. And we met through real estate investing. And so I've gotten the opportunity to just see their journey through real estate. So today we have Lila Kaplan, we have Anita Wong, and then we have Linchi Chong. And so all of these ladies are coming from different backgrounds and all decided to get into commercial real estate. So I'm going to kick it off with Lila and I have her introduce herself, and then we'll move to Anita and then Linchi.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashley. And thank you, Paul, for having us on your podcast. Again, my name is Lila Kaplan. My background was in finance. I worked on Wall Street for over a decade in both business development and also relationship management, which the skills that I learned through my career was quite similar to the multifamily syndications as well. I am a mother of 3 kids, 3, 5, and under. So I am a busy mom. I also have a husband in orthopedic trauma with a high demanding job, and I'm trying to retire him in the next 5 years. And that's why I am in this business.
All right, Anita.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. I'm so excited to be back on the podcast and so really thankful to be here with you guys again. My name is Anita Wong. I'm CEO of Give Rise Capital. I am a new mom. I guess what else get to talking about that, but 2 under 2 very soon, 6 months pregnant now. But we are really excited to be, doing real estate and being mothers at the same time. And I also run this group called SARE Ladies, which is part of this larger group called SARE, Settle Asian Real Estate. And we're a 25,000 member group of AAPI real estate investors nationwide. I have run the women's group for several years now and have really had a passion for working with women, especially with AAPI women for these few years. And I'm really grateful to be where we are with multifamily and really linking those things and those passions together. And really excited to be part of this team, which is majority women.
Awesome, awesome. My name is Linchi Chong, and thank you so much for having me here on the podcast. This is actually my very first podcast. So thank you for the invitation, Mr. Paul Peebles and Ashley Cao. I studied economics and business in college at UC Berkeley, but my 20 plus years of entrepreneurship background is actually in the restaurant industry, running multiple locations with great teams in the Bay Area. And at one point, we were running up to 8 restaurants and having over 100 plus employees. For each restaurant that we owned, we always bought one real estate property to house our employees and help us leverage our investment in that way. That is how I got started with real estate. And I learned a great deal about managing people, operations, and margins in the restaurant business, which is also very applicable to the real estate business.
Cool. You all just closed on a property recently here in Dallas. And so how did you guys so Linchi, you're in Dallas, Anita, you're in the Bay Area, and then Lila, you're in Colorado. So how did you guys all meet and figure out hey, let's go buy a building together?
Yeah, I can answer that. I knew we were gonna step on each other. This is how we girls gab. I think I would say that the keystone to probably all of this is Tony Lin, who is, I think, the common denominator between us. Tony and Linchi met first because I think that Tony was actually just a connoisseur of Linchi's food and restaurants.
That's right.
And yes, and then as I was running SARE, Tony sponsored one of my events, and that's how we got to know each other. And Lila and myself, I met on our podcast, SARE Ladies podcast, but they also had connected in previous. So I would say the connecting tissue between us all is Tony Lin.
Yeah, he's the common denominator. I actually met Tony on a virtual summit, and he gave out his cell phone number. So I said, I'm going to call this guy because he sounds very smart. So I ended up calling him and just kept on bugging him about looking at different multifamily syndications, not only in Dallas, but nationally as well, especially in Ohio and also Iowa. And that's kind of how we built a relationship. And, one day I just said, Tony, I would like to be on your next deal with you and Anita. And, I think at that point we built a strong enough relationship where he said, you got it. And here I am with the best team.
That's awesome. So I guess maybe we can talk about the deal a little bit, just kind of get an idea of what you guys recently closed on. And then I think I would love to just kind of hear what the roles are that you have in each for the partnership.
Yeah. So our Dallas deal was an 82 unit Class A property that we purchased at about $13.475 million, which is pretty much at the loan value. So it's roughly about 34% below the replacement cost, which is an incredible deal. It's one of those deals where we have waited for several years to get. This is the unicorn deal that we've all been looking for in the last few years. We also had financing through Old Capital. I think we came in at about 5.385% fixed for the next 7 years, which was also a huge win for us as well. It's just such an incredible opportunity for us to focus on, and we're excited to get this stabilized and create the value that we want to create for our investors.
Okay, so that's a great some great points that Lila brought up. So I'm going to throw it over to Anita a little bit. Anita, for somebody that has never seen this property, can you describe it for me, and then also tell me how did you guys even find this deal? Again, you live in the Bay Area, properties in Dallas. So again, paint a picture, Anita, of what this property looks like for somebody that's never seen it.
Yeah, so it's a Class A construction in a really desirable Richardson submarket. We actually toured it the first time on the old Capitol field trip. So a quick plug for that because they truly look at the deals that we are even as syndicators are looking at. And I remember meeting the brokers, which we did have relationships prior. A lot of it was built by Linchi and by Tony prior. So we already had that established relationship. So we already knew about the deal, already underwrote it by the time that we toured this deal with the old Capitol field trip.
Was the property listed for sale, or was it kind of an off-market deal that the broker who knew you guys brought it to you knowing that you guys could actually close on this deal?
Yeah, I think we did know about it prior. It was kind of just peeked in there, but there was a lot of deals that were kind of going on at the same time. But this was one of the candidates amongst, several that kind of just came as, came all together at that time. But they knew us, they knew of our reputation to close. We had just closed on Emerald Point the previous September. So they knew that we were able to raise and that we were able to bring in investors. And so we were definitely always on top of mind from almost the entire deal.
Yeah. So you guys have did a good job of getting your hand up first to be able to see this property. I think it wasn't really put on the market. I don't think it actually hit. I don't think they even had an offering memorandum even built, but the seller had to sell the property, what I recall. And they were going to have to sell it at almost the point of they were coming to a maturity, and the seller was coming to the point that he was not going to get an extension to the loan. The lender wasn't going to give him any more time. The seller's equity wanted to have this property sold, and they wanted to make sure that they were going to be dealing with a buyer that had a little bit of a track record in history. And just like what Anita was saying, is that they had closed on a deal in the past, not with the same group, but they had already put together what I would say a syndication that had already had enough people that said, hey, listen, if you guys come across a deal, we'd be interested in putting money into the deal if you thought it was a good deal. And so the seller wanted to make sure that they were not going down the wrong path. And I think Anita and Lila and Linchi made a great compelling argument that they were the ones that they were able to take the deal down. So there was some competition, but they were able to win the deal. Anita, any more words on that?
Yeah, I would say that we were in the highest bid, and it was based on reputation that we were able to secure it. And what really drew us to this deal too is, besides all really the strong fundamentals, but the seller, even though I honestly think just a really great, just a great seller, but had some operational missteps and some debt pressure, but it gave us an opportunity to go in. So it was secured by that reputation, but was really drawn in by a seller that was, just looking to offload and had some debt pressure.
And I hate to say it this way, but in the past, how many frogs did you have to kiss before it turned into a prince, so to speak? I mean, how many deals did you have to underwrite before you actually found a deal that actually made sense? Anita?
Oh, I've lost count, to be honest. There's a lot. But I would say during this market period, there was certainly a lot more deals that were coming down the pipeline that were actually more appealing, much more distressed, and that was appealing to us. So I think that we were able to kind of notch it down and get into the price that we wanted to because of the impending competition.
And I would tell you that with your group, certainty of close was an important piece of the decision by the seller to move forward with you guys. And you guys liked the asset because it was a fairly new asset. I mean, it was only a couple of years old. And is it 3 stories? Is it 4 stories? How many stories is that property? I think it's 3 stories.
Some
typically.
3 and some 4.
Yeah, some 4 up in it. And so, if your mind's eye would kind of take a look at it, it's a beautiful property, a sparkling pool. The property is on a fairly busy street in a very active submarket of Dallas called Richardson. And so I think you guys did a wonderful job by identifying the property and then having the seller identify you guys and getting that out there that you guys were able to close. And I'm going to throw it back to Ashley because I know that she has lots more questions.
So, I mean, you were awarded the deal, and that's when things had to start. You had to start working on the capital raise and everything else. So, I guess, can you kind of just break down like the roles that you each had in this group and what your responsibilities were?
I think from a capital raising perspective, we really capital raised as a team. I definitely had my own network of investors who I approached. They've been kind of on the sidelines looking for similar deals for a very long time. And so this was the opportunity for them to get in. I think as soon as we opened up to subscription, I had pretty much 100% of everybody that wanted to contribute signed the subscription agreement. I mean, everything happened so incredibly fast. I think within a week or so, my investors all have submitted their funds as well.
So let's talk about that, Lila. I mean, you live up in Denver area. The property is in Dallas.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about, you're out there with an opportunity for people to invest in. How do you get them to get a comfort level? Is it with you first that they trust you, or do they have to actually fly down to Dallas, take a look at the property? Tell us a little bit about how you got investors comfortable.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for that question, Paul. It's definitely building that trust first. So I didn't just start having a conversation with these people when the Dallas deal appeared. I've had multiple conversations over the last several years about finding a good deal for my investors. And most of my investors are medical professionals, busy, high net worth individuals who just doesn't have time to go out to find their own deals. And because of my background, my financial background, and also Wall Street background, I had built a relationship with them. So it was a constant conversation with them. And then once I built that trust, it's really trying to communicate as clear as possible on the complexity of the deal, right? You have to, with these busy professionals, they don't have that much time. You need to speak their language. You need to build that trust and build it quickly, or else they will walk. And so that's kind of what I did. It was building the trust. It was clear communication. And then it was making sure that they understand the risks and also the upside potentials as well.
And they probably said to you, Lila, how much money are you putting into this deal?
Yes, absolutely. I put a lot of money into this deal.
So that's what you have to kind of, if you're going into multifamily and you're looking for investors, I mean, I think that's one of the things that you have to make sure that you clarify is that you're putting money into the deal. You're just not being a promoter of using their money, that you actually have to have new money coming in, but also putting your money into these deals too.
Yeah. I think in the past, I do see and also hear that some syndicators do not put any money of their own into the deals. I think that environment is long gone now. And so for me personally, if I find a product that I believe in and that I'm selling to my investors, then I better be putting my own money in and have some skin in the game.
Absolutely. Then Anita, we've had a big, beautiful bill that was passed with bonus depreciation. How much for a lot of these people that are high net worth investors, how much was that bonus depreciation a deciding factor to invest in these deals?
Yeah, it was definitely a big deal, especially from coming from Silicon Valley, where people pay so much taxes that it's wild, I think. So I think that, besides also using self-directed IRA as a vehicle to invest, I think those were our top two draws for the investing this time around.
One of the things that we haven't talked about is operations, and then I'm going to have Ashley talk a little bit about operations in a second. Ashley, any other questions besides that?
Yeah. Well, Paul, maybe you can explain a little bit about this bonus depreciation for somebody who's investing as a passive investor into a syndication. What does that mean for somebody who's investing to that?
So why have me do it, Ashley? Ashley, let's have Anita do it because she just had that question asked by all of her Silicon Valley investors. What does that mean, Anita?
Oh God, I feel like I'm getting a pop quiz.
So
Um,
over a period of time, you can depreciate your investment in real estate. Single family homes are a little bit different than apartments or commercial real estate. But what this big, beautiful bill has done, similar to what had happened in the Jobs Act of 2017, you're able to accumulate all this depreciation, let's say the first year. So instead of having it all 1%, 1/27th of a time over a period of 27 years, you run it all together and you can write off this huge depreciation piece. And so whatever your percentage of ownership is in the deal, you get a write-off. Supposedly it's really almost like I wouldn't say it's a kind of a loan from the government until you pay them back, so to speak, on your depreciation. But it's something to consider. But please talk to your tax professional about it. But it's a reason why a lot of people invest in real estate is that you're able to offset your active income based off the real estate depreciation and that expense. So Ashley, let's go back over to you.
All right. So I think, I would love to hear from Linchi if we're going to move into operations, because I think one of the cool things about Linchi is that she does have a secret weapon. So Linchi, I think you have a unique background on like where you were born and the languages that you speak. And so can you kind of talk to that and how you leverage that for what you do now?
Yes, I was born in Mexico. My parents originally immigrated from China back in the 1950s. They moved to Mexico, and all my siblings were born in Mexico. So I'm very familiar with the Latino culture, and I speak Spanish fluently. And so that really helps me have a deeper understanding of how the Latino culture works. Most of our staff members are actually have the Latino background. So being able to speak to them in their language, being able to understand their culture and what motivates them really helps. So I have the advantage to be treated like part of the family. One thing that most people don't know is that the Latino people are actually really loyal people. And I would say they're the most loyal people that I have known. My father, he had workers working for him in Mexico over 50 years. It's unheard of in any other country, I think. I lived in other parts of the world and I've never heard that. But there are several employees who do that. So if they like you and they trust you, they're loyal to you for the life. So that is something that I respect and I understand and I try to build with our staff members. And in that sense, they work really hard for us. They try to solve problems before they arise. And that really helps with the multifamily efficiency.
So you also come from like a restaurant background. And so like what are the things that you took from your restaurant career and implemented into the multifamily space?
Yes. So restaurants, they teach you about efficiency. So you're managing a lot of moving parts and having to do that with a really tight margin. So you have to do a big volume, but keep the profitable margin there at the same time. Multifamily is very similar in that sense, except that you actually have the advantage to keep repeating the same thing. If it works for you, you keep repeating it, and it's much easier to achieve efficiency than it is in restaurant. Speaking Spanish really helped me to communicate with the tenants, making sure that we are understanding their needs. We're talking to the staff members to make sure that they understand their needs. So it's all about communication.
I still remember, I think we were at one of your properties and then you started just like speaking Spanish to somebody and I was like appalled because I was like, well, I had no idea that you spoke Spanish. And so that's when I got to learn about where you were born and all that stuff. So that's really cool. And so like based on just, since you've asset managed a few properties now in multifamily, what are some of like the top operational tips that you can share?
Let me give you three. Number one is to train your staff to make sure that they get to know your tenants. Try to get community events to, outreach to the tenants so that they're open-minded to tell you if, they need some help with their unit and see if there's anything that you can do to make their stay happier. That way, it will help you with the retention rate of the apartment and lower the turnovers. Turnovers in the multifamily business, it's a heartache because you lose a tenant, then you have to remodel the whole unit, and then you have to spend time marketing and finding the next tenant. So if you keep everybody happy, most people don't like to move. If you keep them happy, they will stay, and they will stay there for years. In many of our properties, we have been able to retain residents for years. And I think that is a very important factor in the equation. The next tip, number 2, is to track your numbers weekly as GPs. It's important that we check our numbers weekly instead of monthly, because sometimes after a month, things can really get out of hand. And then when you try to fix something after a month, then, it takes a lot more time to fix it, at least another month to actually fix it. Number 3 tip, I would say get to know your staff. So I'm all about people. I'm all about getting to know them, see what actually, helps them to become more efficient, listen to them, and try to help them to achieve their goals. Multifamily is a people business. So building relationship is the key, and having an open communication with them, with employees, with tenants, with everybody. Just listen to what they say. Most of the time, the resolution is there. So get to know your staff.
I feel like values is like a good foundation for any business. You kind of have to align on values before you figure out if you want to work together. And so for you ladies, did you guys talk through like values on, like alignment and stuff like that before you decided to partner?
I think I can answer that question. I think that's, as Tony as kind of our connecting force between us all, I feel like he has done a really good job about really connecting people that share the same values and share the same kind of work ethic. I think that, like Lila and I went through Linfinity, and I feel like there's a lot of the lessons about transparency, about working hard, about doing right by your staff, and all those things. Like we had to sort of all really like nod and agree to that before I think we even jumped into a partnership together. So really kudos to Tony for really setting the bar there and making sure that this was the right team for us that aligned with our values.
And I'll just add to that. So I think part of, us working together, it's also seeing each other's actions. I think if you think about it, between the 3 of us, we have 6 kids altogether. So it really requires somebody who is resilient, who's a multitasker, but also who's super resourceful. I mean, none of us live in Dallas except for Linchi. And I have a very supportive husband, and that's very important too, is having that support behind you to run this business. It's incredibly important. And I love seeing Anita because I see a lot of me in it, because she doesn't give a beep about, not being a mom, but just the challenges that comes from being a mom, right? We're not sitting back just because we're mom. We're moving forward because we're doing this not only for ourselves, but for the rest of our family as well. She's pregnant right now with her second one on her, I guess, formally second deal. And I look up to Anita constantly. And I'm like, I got to chase after the same thing that she's doing.
Appreciate you.
2 babies, 2 deals. Lila, you're behind
one deal.
You need to get a couple more deals on your belt. But you said something I thought was very interesting concerning having a spouse engaged with this idea of investing in real estate, investing in apartments. Linchi, your husband Jack has been with you as a partner in this business since day one. In fact, that maybe he brought you into this business, and now you've kind of taken it over in the last, say, 6 months or a year, staying on top of what's going on with the tenants, what's going on with the on-site manager. And then Anita, your husband too, you got into this with the first big toe into the bathtub, so to speak. And then your husband, Will, came in very successful in his business, but saw how much fun you were having. And then it was kind of fun to kind of work together. And you've been husband and wife have kind of been a driving force. I don't see Dr. Kaplan making the move, Lila, over to multifamily, but when you retire him, maybe that's what you do. So Anita, tell us about having a supportive spouse.
Yeah, it's been a journey since working with, Linchi will probably tell you, working on the same things with your husband, on a personal level and on a work level. It took a lot of trust and support, but also proving that this was the path that our family needed to take. And my husband, William, who has been on this podcast before, he has a bit more of a formal business background than I do. And I come from, architecture, so more in like on hands-on building experience. But I have found that his transition has been super helpful, especially during my time of pregnancy, of receiving the parts that I'm like, okay, I might not be so good, that he just picks it up super fast. And he's been able to receive me and this team through the ups and downs and really helped us carry through the acquisition process. And, and I think that's really what it is as a team, is that we all use our strengths to help carry everyone down the line and finish the goal.
Dr. Kaplan, what do you think about Dr. Kaplan in this business? I mean, he's absolutely been a saint by taking care of the three kids and giving the time to go to the meetings, the meetups, the visits to the properties. I mean, I give Dr. Kaplan a lot of credit for being able to fill in the holes of when you're not there. What's your take, Lila?
I give him a lot of credit. He, like I said, he has a high demanding job. And right now, typically we would have a nanny with us all the time, but we're in the process of getting a new one. And so he's been watching our three little kids. And sometimes when I'm telling him, hey, I'm going to Dallas, it's not, hey, I'm going to Dallas next week or next month. It's, hey, I'm going to Dallas tomorrow. Logistically, he has to think about his work, but also about the kids as well. So he has been an incredible husband, incredibly supportive. And I'm really trying to get him to go out to Dallas for all your holiday party, hopefully this year, so that you can meet him as well.
Fantastic. Ashley.
So I guess taking a few steps before that. So I talk to a lot of women who are wanting to get into real estate or maybe are already in real estate. And the challenge that they have is getting the buy-in or the support from their spouse or their partner. Did you have any challenges getting the buy-in? And if you did, like, what kind of tips can you share for somebody who needs that support from their partner?
Yeah, I could certainly answer that, since I took a couple of years in order to get Will to jump on the train. I think for him, I think the barrier was multifamily was just a concept. I think that it's really hard for most people to understand that you can own this many apartments. And it was a dream, a thought for a very long time. And until it kind of proved itself that he jumped in. So I think that, sometimes, yeah, we struggle with, bringing the spouse in, especially with real estate, because it's so capital intensive. It impacts the entire family generationally even. But I think that, it was a deep belief, in myself, in this type of investment and moving forward boldly, that, it became more convincing for him to jump on.
Yeah, so I would like to add to that. In all fairness, as much as we hear that behind every successful man, there's a great woman behind, I think it also goes that in every successful woman, there's a great man behind as well, if not a whole village behind them. We cannot do things alone. It goes to both men and women. And, I am fortunate to have my greater partner in business and in life, Jack Wong, who has been really supportive with me. And sometimes I'm a workaholic, and so I lose balance, and then I might not do all my, duties in the family, but he would take over, and vice versa, of course. So it is like a balancing act between the husband and the wife. And we really have to acknowledge that we're not able to do it by ourselves. Another point that I wanted to point out is, I'm grateful to great partners, also to Tony Lin. He basically walked us into multifamily. And it makes a tremendous difference when somebody shows you the ropes and, how to do things right, how to grow it right. And I'm trying to do the same thing with the rest of the team. I try to show Anita the ropes that I found to be helpful. And now it's time to show it to Lila, and we just pass it on.
We talk about Tony Lin. Let's do a plug for Tony Lin and Linfinity. What's the best way for people to get a hold of Tony Lin?
Let me see what his cell phone number is.
I don't think we can give out his cell phone number.
No, we'll put it in the show notes. But I just want to highlight that, it's kind of the common thread. You want to have a mentor that has experience of multifamily. You've got it within Tony Lin. Tony's out of the Bay Area. He's owned a lot of real estate in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And he's a good mentor, obviously, to these fine ladies, but also to, if you're thinking about getting into multifamily, he'd probably be a good person to talk to also. So it kind of feels like the ladies have kind of taken over this podcast. So we do appreciate that. Talk a little bit about, just lastly, again, kind of your roles. Lila, what is your role in this kind of formation of this business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say I'm still the capital raiser, but I'm also learning the ropes of asset management, acquisition, all of the above. Like I said, because of my former career, I find passion in the acquisition and capital raising perspective. But through Linchi, I'm definitely learning a lot about asset management, operations, systems, and just being more of a people's person. Because I ran with the men's club for the longest time, and I worked with institutions. And the relationship that you have there is so different than what you see on the main street. And that's something that I'm constantly trying to improve. A little bit more soft skills on the main street than the Wall Street days. But I love working with these ladies and also Tony and the rest of the team.
Anita, what would you say your skills are within this group? Is it underwriting? Is it putting reality into these deals to make sure that it's a good deal or not? You and Will have done hundreds of underwriting lessons to kind of figure out if these deals actually make sense. Is that your superpower?
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like I tether both worlds of operations and capital raising, and Will has been really great with underwriting and also with operations as well. He's just a military guy and really knows really how to stick it. And I feel like I'm more in the building world, working with Linchi and asset management, a bit more of a project manager style, kind of more of on a strategic level too, in regards to acquisitions.
And Linchi, your superpower is your boots on the ground. So you're the eyes and ears about really what's going on. These ladies live in different locations in the country, but you live here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So your skill set really is really being the eyes and ears for the partnership, for the investors about really what's going on. And, planning, you're the relationship manager between the tenant and the ownership group. And so in the management company, tell us a little bit more about what your superpower is.
My superpower is listening to others, listening to where the problem is, listening to what they're trying to tell us. And that way I can be the ears and the eyes for my team. And that way we can actually work together to solve any problems that we have. It sounds really simple, but it's harder to do. And it's a attainable skill that we all should, get at some point, because that makes the team work together. That makes, the staff and the residents work together. So yeah, I think that's my magic power.
I know what Ashley's magic power is, and she's the one who structures these deals for Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or for the banks. And she makes sure that when somebody makes a decision to actually buy an apartment building, that they bring in the money, the syndicators bring in, the $6 or $7 million, but Ashley's there to make sure the $8 or $9 or $10 million comes in too at the same time. And that not everybody's walking around and thinking that when is this money going to come in from the bank? Ashley makes sure it happens. So I know what her superpower is. Ashley, let's finish up the conversation here. Any additional questions that we should ask the ladies?
Well, and Paul, I know what your superpower is helping provide just kind of comfortability for women to get into the space. And so I think we really appreciate you for doing that and being supportive to make it a woman's world too. So just kind of on this ladies takeover theme, I mean, for you ladies, did you see any challenges being a woman and trying to break into a male dominated space, especially in multifamily?
Yeah, I can also talk to that since I came in at a really interesting time since my first deal, I actually was pregnant with my first. And it was, it's multifamily is really difficult to get into because of there's only very few people doing all the big deals, especially in a market like DFW. And it's really from people like Paul, who really has an eye for wanting to see more women in this space. That was like the opportunity for me to really step in. And it was definitely a difficult time because I was in the process of growing a family and starting a family. And I remember I actually had a moment with when I was working on our first deal, Emerald Point. I just had the baby, and I had to come on a 24-hour trip to Dallas, and I had to breastfeed. So I was pumping, and I was panicking because I was like, it's 106-degree weather. I had nowhere to put this, and it's embarrassing, to be honest, because you're just in a room like just brokers are just they have no idea what to say to a pregnant woman, let alone all these other things. And it's like and I think in most contexts in most male dominated industries, just we don't talk about pregnancy. I think most women hide the fact that they are, and really just try to keep it under wraps because it affects our business, affects our ability to get the deal. And I remember Linchi, I just called her, and she just came out from, I think she was in Plano at the time, drove all the way down to Irving with ice packs. And, to basically save me. And I was so relieved. And it was just such a moment of something so simple of just bringing ice packs that I was like, that I felt like, it felt like I belonged. And that whatever was going on, even, like with my family life, that I could be transparent with my team. And it's because there were more women coming in. And I think that's a thing that I think most women, especially in these phases, are scared about, is that they feel like they have to choose. But it's really about finding a community that will help you support that, and finding people will, open the door for you in these moments.
I actually remember that day, Anita, you called me and then you said, Linchi, I need your help. And then I remember that day, even the ice chips were not going to save that breast milk.
Yeah,
It was too hot. So I had to, multitask and think about, okay, what do we do? So we had to borrow the fridge from a sister property to store it away.
yeah.
So it's kind of funny, but we have to treat each other like sisters and stick together. So help each other out whenever we need help, and help each other because most of the time it's a big barrier that we experience, but men don't understand it. So as sisters, we help each other out.
Boy, that's kind of the. Go ahead, Lila.
Oh, let me just add a point here. And I completely agree with these ladies. I think when getting into the syndication space, it's hard to find sisterhood amongst, 99% of men. And so you have to work extra hard to build that trust, to build that credibility amongst the men. So mentors like Tony and also you, Paul, really gave me the platform when I was totally lost in this male-dominated society. Even though I've been in this type of environment before, it's finding that right people, right mentorship, and then right ladies to kind of be there for you. Because ultimately, I'm totally fine with talking to men, but sometimes women knows women best.
The sisterhood is probably the general theme what we should be talking about of this podcast, because it is important. Guys don't understand it, but women do understand it. And it's important that women, apartment investors kind of stick together. And this is a great platform that you ladies have kind of set up for your group, and hopefully other women can do similar platforms and get the respect out there that they deserve. So ladies, I certainly do appreciate spending some time with us. Linchi, Lila, Anita, Ashley, thank you very much for spending some time with us on the Old Capital Podcast. I'm Paul Peebles. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Old Capital Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please join us at oldcapitalpodcast.com to sign up for our weekly email updates. We'll see you next week for another great interview.